Easy to move, invincible flow, single female lead dog food article, me, Lu Xian, the first genius of Daoyan Sect. 9-year-old forging body, 12 refining qi, 15 building foundation, 18 golden pills, a great realm every 3 years. At this speed, one day I will become the youngest immortal in the Cangyuan Realm, shattering the void and soaring in the daytime. Just around the corner Lu Xian, who had traveled to the world of immortality and chivalry, welcomed the darkest day of his life at the age of 20.1. On that day, he formed a primordial baby step by step. Before he could feel the joy of breakthrough, he saw his primordial baby detach from the lotus platform, rush out of the heavenly gate, and fly away from his body. In the following years, whenever Lu Xian formed a primordial baby, that primordial baby would fly away without exception. For 9,000 years, after releasing countless primordial babies, Lu Xian discovered, he has established a successful golden body. Keywords of the novel. My Yuan Ying has run away again without a pop-up window. My Yuan Ying has run away again. Download the complete TXT collection. My Yuan Ying has run away again. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Birth and 9,000 years. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Birth and 9,000 years, crossing the 9,021st year. So far everything has been normal. Today is a special day, so I have decided to celebrate as a Yuan Ying. This is my 3,000 attempts to challenge the Yuan Ying realm. As expected, my Yuan Ying ran away again. Inside the bamboo house, a young man dressed in white put away his practice diary, and looked calmly at the sky outside the window. Lu Xian, the traveler. The first Shaolin peak of the Daoyan Sect, the largest person in the entire Daoyan Sect, has no one. Having practiced for over 9,000 years, my cultivation has reached the pinnacle of perfection in the Golden Elixir. Lu Xian should have been a genius in cultivation. At the age of 6, he was favored by the leader of Daoyan Sect and became a beginner in cultivation. 9 years old forging body, 12 refining qi. As the youngest disciple of the qi refining realm in history, he broke the record of the Daoyan Sect. In the following 3 years, a great achievement was achieved, and promotion was like eating and drinking water. Until he was 20.1 years old. On that day, I experienced 4 great realms. Forging, refining, building foundations, and forming pills. Now that the golden pill is fully round, Lu Xian bathes, changes clothes, burns incense, and plays the piano. Amidst the pleased gazes of the senior uncles and uncles, as well as the admiring gazes of the junior brothers and sisters, we walked into the secluded cave used to challenge the Yuan Ying realm. Everything went smoothly, the golden pill rushed into the central palace, returned to the womb, and the power flowed. The divine mind condensed, and the primordial baby was planted on the lotus platform. Lu Xian smiled and thought to himself that he was indeed a genius, so the next moment. With a boom sound, it feels like the melon is ripe. The newly formed primordial baby, disconnected from the lotus platform, rose up leisurely, flew out of its body, and passed through the cave amidst the astonished gazes of senior uncles and uncles, as well as the dull gazes of junior brothers and sisters. His primordial baby picked up flowers and smiled, soaring away like a Buddha sitting on a lotus, disappearing into the sky. Even the old monks who have lived for thousands of years have never seen such a scene. Lu Xian's master exploded his feathers on the spot. He saw the appearance of the good disciple Yuan Ying flying away and suspected that it was a thief from the Buddhist sect who was playing tricks. When he raised his sword, he wanted to settle accounts with the bald donkeys. I was stopped by a group of martial uncles, and after some persuasion, I finally came down. Daoyan Sect held an emergency meeting that evening and made sufficient preparations during Lu Xian's second attempt to challenge the Yuan Ying realm. Formation blockade, Lingbao suppression, Dening Dao protection, altar opening method. However, it had no effect. In front of everyone's eyes, Lu Xian's Yuan Ying bowed his hand and transformed into 3 streams of clear air, ignoring the blockade of the formation's spiritual treasures and flying straight up. Lu Xian was numb at that time. Uncle and uncle, everyone is also foolish. I heard for the first time that Yuan Ying can also run away, and I have run more than once. Lu Xian's master stared blankly. This time, it is obvious that the disciples Yuan Ying used Taoist methods. He can't go and demolish the ancestral temple of the ancestor, can he? In this way, every 3 years, Lu Xian would challenge the Yuan Ying realm. So far, he has formed well. It should be said that 3,000 Yuan babies were released. Once every 3 years without interruption. Of course, over the years, his Yuan Ying has not remained unchanged. I, the Yuan Ying, am running faster and faster. Lu Xian looked up at the sky, and above the sky curtain outside the window, a pitch-black crack appeared, tearing open the sky and creating a deep and eerie atmosphere. Since many years ago, his primordial baby has been able to create this kind of illusion in the sky. At first, people in the world of cultivating immortals were in a state of panic, and this vision caused quite a stir throughout the entire Cangyuan Realm. Many mystical sects of the immortal sect thought it was a precursor to the invasion of extraterrestrial demons, and their fierce troops and horses trembled with fear. However, after waiting for a long time, nothing happened. Later on, it became commonplace for cultivators to come and worship the mountain, and the disciples of the Daoyan Sect who were responsible for welcoming them pointed at the crack in the sky. This is a unique anomaly of our sect, named Tianyuan. It only appears once every 3 years and cannot be seen elsewhere. It's been so many years in the blink of an eye. Lu Xian stretched lazily, carrying a wine gourd and walked into the courtyard, lying down on a rattan chair. Under normal circumstances, cultivators in the Golden Core realm cannot live for that long. But his situation is quite special. The cultivators in the Cangyuan realm all have a life wheel inside their bodies. Every year, the life wheel will grow an additional circle, like the tree's growth wheel. If the life wheel is complete, one will end their life and sleep soundly. Only by achieving true immortality and soaring to the upper realm can one attain immortality. Unlike ordinary cultivators, whenever Lu Xian forms a Yuan Ying and Yuan Ying runs away, his life wheel will reset. That's right, it's reset. His life wheel will be reset to its state 3 years ago. In this process, not only his physical age, but also his mentality will become younger. In the words of Lu Xian's master who has already ascended to the immortal realm and become a saint and ancestor. This is called cutting off the energy of the mortal world, leaving no trace in the years of Lingtai. Belonging to the realm that many great powers seek in their later stages of enlightenment. Of course, the master emphasized that most people have primordial babies. Therefore, even though he had become the ancestor uncle of Daoyan Sect, Lu Xian did not have any signs of twilight on his body. Shouyuan reset, longevity, Yuan Ying running away and so on, are not all bad things. Lu Xian has a good mentality. And maybe will succeed next time. Mr. Lu, who is already over 9,000 years old, took a sip of wine. The body swayed with the recliner, humming softly. Grandmaster Uncle. Grandmaster Uncle. A call came from outside the courtyard, old but full of vitality. After a few breaths, an old man with white beard and hair appeared in front of Lu Xian. Lu Xian slowly sat up from the lounge chair, wiped the wine from the corner of his mouth, and looked at the palm teaching master with big sleeves and wide robes. What's up with Anhua? I just came out of seclusion and remembered that today should be the day when my ancestor uncle gave birth. The palm teaching real person named Anhua and the Taoist named Qinjiangzi rubbed his hands, hoping to say. Did Grandmaster Uncle break through? The old man with crane hair and childlike appearance refers to the handsome young man as the ancestor uncle. If outsiders were to see this scene, they would definitely be amazed. Lu Xian looked at the hopeful gaze of the leader's son and pointed to the black crack in the sky. Just play steadily. 9,000 years of childbirth, as always. Sure enough. Cangyuan showed an expression of, "I knew it would be like this," with an old face full of satisfaction. "Why are you laughing so happily?" Lu Xian's face was suspicious. Cough. Cangyuan has a dry cough twice. I bet with junior brother Fenjiangzi whether Uncle Zhu can successfully conceive this time. He pressed a painting saint's calligraphy treasure. And then I won. Do you have such little confidence in Grandmaster Uncle? Lu Xian said softly. Junior brother Fenjiangzi is quite confident in you. Cangyuan muttered to himself. He felt that there must be some changes in the 3,000 births, but fortunately, Grandmaster Uncle Yu played steadily. Lu Xian's veins twitched on his forehead as he advised himself in his heart that Anhua was at least an adult over 1,000 years old and couldn't be beaten anymore. Besides gambling, there should be other things to consider. Taking a deep breath, Lu Xian stood up and walked towards the bamboo house. Come in and talk. Grandmaster Uncle's eyes are like a torch. Cangyuan chuckled twice, blinked a bit childishly, and followed Uncle Zushi into the room. Although he is the ancestor of Daoyan Sect, Lu Xian's life has always been simple. Bamboo table, bamboo bed, bamboo wood chair. Statue of the founder of the Putuan incense burner. There is also a calligraphy and painting hanging on the wall, with vigorous strokes and dancing dragons and phoenixes, hidden within the charm of the Tao. There are 2 big characters written on it. Jiaing. This is what Lu Xian wrote after experiencing a mental breakdown after a failed attempt to conceive, using alcohol to drown his sorrows and get drunk. Although his primordial baby photo ran smoothly after waking up from a drunken state, it must be admitted that this is indeed an extremely good character. Whenever a disciple of Daoyan Sect prepares to attack the Yuan Ying realm, Cangyuan borrows this character from his ancestor uncle. After showing it to the disciples, it can greatly improve the success rate of getting a baby. Every time Sun, the leader of the sect, comes to bring good news to him, Lu Xian's mood is very complicated. Tell me, what's up with coming to me? Lu Xian gestured for Cangyuan to sit down in front of him and poured him a cup of tea. Cangyuan took it with both hands and spoke. The South China Sea, Jianshui Temple, sent us a message that a dead city appeared out of thin air in the coastal area, with a strange and ominous atmosphere. The dead city appeared on the night of a rainstorm. After that night, all the creatures within 100 miles died. The disciples sent by Jianshui Temple to the city also lost contact. A dead city. Upon hearing this, Lu Xian pondered for a moment and said, the meaning of Jianshui Temple is to request that we send someone to take a look. Exactly so. Cangyuan nodded. Since 10,000 years ago, Jianshui Temple has been a subordinate sect of Daoyan Sect. When a subordinate sect encounters an unresolved crisis, they naturally seek help from the higher sect. However, to put it awkwardly, nowadays the talents of Daoyan Sect are in decline. If we don't include Lu Xian, the overall strength will be slightly stronger than Jianshui Temple. Since more than 8,000 years ago, after Lu Xian's master ascended to the immortal realm, the great powers of Daoyan Sect cannot withstand the power of time. One after another they sit still. The number of new disciples who can achieve great things is decreasing. At present, the highest realm within the Daoyan Sect is the leader of the true master Cangyuan. He is a cultivator during the refining period. How to judge the background of a sect? Judging from the cultivation of their sect leader, it's enough to rank within the sect. Generally speaking, the leader of the sect is the one with the highest realm, and they are all emerging sections. A sect with a profound heritage is often covered by great elders, supreme elders, and the like. I hit the small one, but the old one can stand up and support me. The world's first sect, which once produced true immortals, has not yet fallen into this situation, which makes people marvel at the cycle of rise and fall, and the impermanence of the heavenly way. How did you plan on this matter? Lu Xian asked. If our subordinate sect requests help, our superior sect cannot sit idly by. Cangyuan blinked. However, there are quite a few internal affairs within the sect, and junior brother Fenjiangzi and I are inseparable. Several elders also have their own tasks. Are you saying? Let me go over and take a look. Lu Xian pointed to himself. Qinjiangzi nodded vigorously. Lu Xian suddenly stood up and walked away. I won't go. Go once, Grandmaster Uncle. You haven't been down the mountain for almost 1,000 years. Every time I go down the mountain, I have to encounter a bunch of troubles. What if I fall? Grandmaster Uncle, do you have no idea about your own strength? Every time you fall, it's not always the ancestors of other families. You shut up. And don't hold my thighs, you're such a big person now. If Uncle Zushi doesn't agree, I won't let go. These are pants worth 20,000 spirit stones, you're going to tear them apart. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Our Golden Elixir cultivators focus on a rampage. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Our Golden Core cultivators focus on being domineering and domineering Daoyan Sect, in front of the mountain gate. I'm leaving now. Lu Xian dressed in white and stood with his hands down. Unable to withstand the relentless struggle of the sect leader's disciple Sunday. In addition, Cangyuan provided another condition that Lu Xian could not refuse. According to the news transmitted from Tianshui Temple, the dead city is likely an ancient heritage site that is extremely ancient. The laws of heaven and earth expressed therein are somewhat different from those of the Cangyuan Realm. Lu Xian felt that if he entered this city, he might be able to learn something similar and help Jiaying. So, after staying at home for almost 1,000 years, the Golden Elixir period ancestor finally decided to go down the mountain for a stroll. Farewell to Grandmaster Uncle. Cangyuan raised his hands together, exuding a fairy-like demeanor and graceful demeanor, his clothes fluttering. Beside him, an old man also stood, bowing his hands with a respectful expression. It is Cangyuan's junior brother, Fenjiangzi. Lu Xian nodded slightly. There are a total of 4 people in the generation of Cangyuan. Take the road number with the 4 characters Ming, Yu, Qing, and Feng. Since 200 years ago, Minjiangzi and Yuyangzi have successively taken office. The only people in the sect who know about the existence of the ancestor Uncle Lu Xian are Qing and Feng. Lu Xian remembers that Yuyangzi should be a descendant of one of his junior sisters. My master has ascended to immortality, and some of my senior brothers have fallen outside, while others have sat down in the long years. In the end, even the descendants of his junior sister were sent away by Lu Xian. Grandmaster Uncle, have you brought all the things with you? Cangyuan asked. Lu Xian raised his hand and showed off his jade ring. It's all inside. I'm not sure how long it will take for me to come back after this trip. You can keep that pair of Jiaying calligraphy and painting. If a disciple breaks through, you can use it. Lu Xian said. Also, there is a scroll of calligraphy and painting in the drawer of my room, which contains 7 sword energies. When encountering an enemy that cannot be defeated, he unfolds the calligraphy and painting and sends me a message. Yes. Upon hearing these words, Cangyuan felt very calm in his heart. After explaining the corresponding matters, Lu Xian raised his hand. A blue bamboo leaf was thrown out by him, transforming into a light boat and floating in the air. Let's go. The young ancestor, dressed in white and with black hair, stepped on the bamboo leaves, scolded lightly, and turned into a flowing light and fled far away. Qing and Feng did not leave immediately and watched as they landed in Shenyuan. 3 days later. Shaoshui City. In an inn. Lu Xian woke up in the morning, pushed open the window, and felt the morning sunshine. There is a Shoujian daily on the table by the window, with today's date. Lu Xian doesn't read newspapers very much because he often finds his deceased's obituary, which makes people feel bad. The founder of Shoujian Daily is one of them. Create a daily report exclusively for cultivators, which was an idea that Lu Xian accidentally mentioned back then. Unexpectedly, that person made it happen. In the past few thousand years, obituaries related to old friends have disappeared. Probably because in recent years, Lu Xian's frequency of going down the mountain has been decreasing, and there have been fewer and fewer new friends. And all the old acquaintances we know have become mere acquaintances. Even a monk in the Mahayana realm has a lifespan of only 5,000 years. Some with special bloodlines, such as the cultivation and shaping of spirit turtles and ancient wood, can live longer years. But in front of the forever young Lu Xian, they will eventually grow old. The Shuzhen Daily is edited, printed and published by the Sankai Academy, and only serves as news without editorial. The daily content covers a wide range. The retired ancestor of Daoyan Sect, who has been retired for many years, does not care about world affairs and only reads gossip news. For example, the wife of a certain sect leader was abducted by a disciple. For example, a certain sect leader's divine skills were greatly improved and he finally changed his nature. For example, a certain leader who endured humiliation for many years and wanted to take revenge on his cousin after taking charge of a sect, but in excitement, he mistakenly issued a pursuit order and a killing order. Feeling the strange and varied world, and flipping through the serious content, I didn't see any news related to the eerie ancient city. The Cangyuan Realm is so vast that countless strange gods and ghosts occur every day. The Sankai Academy is under the jurisdiction of a newspaper, not an intelligence agency. The location of Tianshui Temple is remote, and it is normal that Shuzhen Daily did not report on the birth of the dead city. Within Shaoshui City, the teleportation formation is about to start. Taoists who have paid spirit stones should queue up in an orderly manner. At the entrance of the teleportation formation, armored cultivator shouted with a spear to maintain order, using some magic in his voice. The cultivators below were bustling, and Lu Xian was also among them. He needs to teleport to the territory of Tianshui Temple. It's not that he can't fly over directly, it's just that Lu Xian is a bit tired of riding the sword and flying magic weapons. Only novice beginners are enthusiastic about flying swords, treating their swords as if they were their significant other in a passionate relationship. An old cultivator like Lu Xian who has been wielding swords for 9,000 years can only feel the emotion of, touching your hand is like touching my own hand. As the saying goes, I'm tired of it. Thinking of this, he suddenly realized. It seems like I haven't used a sword for a long time. With this in mind, he took out his sword from the storage treasure and held it in his arms to touch it twice. Lu Xian's sword is wrapped in a scabbard and adorned with spirit jade, making it feel very warm to the touch. The slender sword body pressed against his heart, trembling gently, like a resentful woman abandoned by a scumbag, conveying a sense of melancholy and resentment. Hey, don't be such a pervert. Lu Xian's mouth twitched and he pressed the sword that was rubbing against him, using his spiritual skills to communicate with the sword spirit. Okay, I won't let you stay with a sword this time. Actually, I've been locked down for nearly 100 years, just came out, and I'll be seeing you soon. Real men tell lies without making drafts. What? You said the Golden Elixir is closed for 100 years. No, how do you, a sword spirit, know so much? You should take care of human affairs. While coaxing his own sword spirit, Lu Xian took a slight step and saw someone approaching and cutting into his team. He was slightly dissatisfied and reached out to press on the person's shoulder, pulling back. The person who cut in line turned around, but it turned out to be a burly man with a strong physique and a face full of flesh. The big man snorted and his tiger eyes were filled with evil spirits. Your child has intentions. The latter half of the sentence was swallowed by him before he could say it. Because at this moment, he sensed the breath on the other person's body, Jean Dan. And it's also a perfect golden pill. If you have any objections, just raise them. I'm not ignoring them. Only the great man in the realm of foundation construction suddenly whispered and changed his voice forcefully, his face turning purple. Line up later. Lu Xian raised his hand and pointed. Yes. The weak foundation building cultivator didn't hesitate and ran to the end of the queue, obediently queuing up. The cultivators around also felt the breath on Lu Xian's body and took half a step back. Generally speaking, the main cultivators who use teleportation arrays are the foundation builders and the Golden Elixir cultivators. Forging and chi refining cultivators have just entered the cultivation world and do not have many spiritual stones on their bodies, often unable to afford the cost of teleporting a large array. After reaching the Yuan Ying realm, the cultivator will start to close the Cangyuan Pass, greatly reducing the number of times they descend the mountain. At the same time, cultivators in this realm pay attention to appearance, go out and sit on a private chariot, flying in the sky. As the saying goes, it is not common to see primordial babies and old monsters, and the villains of the Golden Elixir are everywhere. Jindan is a very subtle realm. After the cultivator completes the pill, their magical power will undergo a qualitative leap, greatly enhancing their combat power. Although the cultivators in this realm may not be as good as their peers, they are still much better than their peers. So when Lu Xian went out, he was not looked down upon by anyone. At that stop, others are afraid of him. Please stay, little friend. After descending the teleportation array and not far from the city, Lu Xian heard someone calling him from behind. Looking back, an old man in a black robe was standing there. The old man had a tripod-shaped pattern printed on his clothes, with white beard and hair, giving him a touch of immortal charm. Is the elderly looking for me for something? Lu Xian said. I was just near the teleportation array and was preparing to hand over a batch of new disciples to our sect elders. Seeing that my young friend has extraordinary roots and bones, I intend to pass on this body to you. Would you be willing to do so? This old man speaks straight to the point. There is a strong aura emanating from the body. Lu Xuanlu's perception, oh, Yuan Ying big shot. Thank you for the old man's kindness, but I already have a mentor with me, so it's inconvenient for me to reapply. Lu Xian waved his hand and casually found a reason to refuse. He has encountered this kind of thing many times before. Walking well on the road, someone will give him a chance. What about accepting him as an apprentice, passing on merits to him, and recruiting him as a son? In law what gift treasures, gift elixirs, gift Taoist priests. Even once, a demon cultivator was chased and happened to run into Lu Xian. Mo Xiu was seriously injured and probably wanted to pull a passerby into the water to block the sword, so he stuffed the treasure he had snatched with his life into Lu Xian's arms. The result was that before he could finish speaking, he died with a bang. There are many inexplicable inheritances on Lu Xian, all of which come from this way. Aren't you trying to scare me, kid? In today's big family, how could anyone wear such white clothes? The old man looked incredulous. I guess your sect is also unknown. I'll tell you, our Daoyan Sect has a master of transforming gods to control it. You can't waste your talent. Lu Xian. It turned out to be a powerful deity, disrespectful. He suddenly remembered that his clothes were a popular style among disciples of the Daoyan Sect 9,000 years ago. The popular clothing in the spiritual realm is constantly changing. The founder depicted in the ancestral portrait was dressed in a grey robe. At that time, everyone wore conservative clothing with darker colors and a reverence for black. When Lu Xian apprenticed, it was popular to wear a white robe and a long sword. The immortal aura flew back and forth, and the fairy stepped on white silk under her feet. Nowadays, the geniuses of the sect all wear blue shirts. Those from wealthy families can raise white exotic beasts, and among fairies, barefoot is popular. Undoubtedly, he is a strong Yuan Ying, with keen observation and attention to detail. Fashion is a circle, and I don't know when it will turn back. Lu Xian still felt a bit nostalgic for the era of white silk stepping on and on. If I don't come with you, will you keep pestering me? After pondering for a moment, Lu Xian said. I cannot watch Puyu be buried. Even if you are bound, I will also tie you back to the sect. Yuan Ying cultivator snorted with a resolute attitude. The negotiations were unsuccessful, and Lu Xian sighed. May I ask which direction your faction is heading in? The old man had one hand behind him, raised his hand and pointed, his face proud. 80,000 miles northwest of this place is the residence of our Daoyan Sect. That's quite close. Lu Xian thought for a moment. The elder of the Daoyan Sect did not understand its meaning. Before he could ask, a clear voice rang out, since that's the case, I'll give the elderly person a ride. Before Elder Daoyan could react, a pair of pure white palms grabbed his arm. A faint light flowed through the gaps between his fingers, and a mysterious magical power sealed the cultivation of the elder of the Daoyan Sect, making him unable to move. The next moment, the elder was swung up by Lu Xian, spinning like a big windmill. Let's go. Lu Xian let go and swung the frightened old man out. The powerful Yuan Ying of the Tang dynasty had no resistance and screamed in agony as he ascended to the sky, turning into a stream of light and disappearing. End of this chapter. Article 3. Red Sandalwood and Cheng Lingzhu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Article 3. Red Sandalwood and Cheng Lingzhu. I haven't thrown someone like this in a long time. Lu Xian watched as the elder of the Daoyan Sect flew away. I reckon we'll have to fly for a while longer. I hope it won't hit the cultivator who is wielding the sword. The distance that the magic array in Shaoshui City can transmit is very far, and he has already approached the agreed location. Not far away is a large river, with fast and flowing water. Lu Xian threw a spirit boat and lay on it, flowing downstream. Drifting for over 100 miles, he arrived near a small town. This place is located on the border of Tianshui Temple and is also the agreed-upon location for the joint. It's neither early nor late, the time is just right. Lu Xian calculated the time and guarded the necessary path to enter the small town. It only takes half a cup of tea. A small white dot flew over from the sky and quickly fell, but it was a female cultivator. She. At a sudden moment, the tip of the sword tore through the air, and the flying sword hurriedly stopped in front of Lu Xian. The female cultivator was wearing a Taoist robe, with a plump and tall figure, and a pair of small boots on her feet. Before the flying sword could stop, she jumped off from above. The first sentence I saw from Lu Xian, how is a golden pill? Lu Xian. The woman in front of her is only 17 or 18 years old, not very old, and her clothes are a bit small, with a bulging front. At this moment, he was standing tall and looking up at Lu Xian. It's not barefoot. Lu Xian's black eyes sank slightly, and the Golden Elixir powerhouse grasped the key point with great detail. Sister. Cough, I'm not an ordinary golden pill, it's a perfect golden pill. Lu Xian blinked and withdrew his gaze. Jindan perfection is also Jindan. One of their martial uncles from Tianshui Temple has reached the level of Yuan Ying. After entering that dead city, they have not yet come out. The female Taoist had an extremely beautiful appearance, and when she mentioned this, she frowned slightly. Their Tianshui Temple. Lu Xian noticed the other party's description. Poor Dao, crossing the world in the sword studio, contemporary walking, Cheng Lingzhu. The female Taoist opened her mouth, with one hand behind her and the other in the hands of a slender white jade. A jade token appeared, showing it to Lu Xian. Hiss. Lu Xian took a deep breath of the golden pill level coolness. Suddenly, there was a deep reverence. Crossing the world sword studio. One of the top immortal gates in the Cangyuan Realm, and also the oldest and most mysterious immortal gate in the Cangyuan Realm. No one knows exactly where the immortal sect is. There are rumors in the cultivation world that unless the sword studio of crossing the world is willing to take the initiative to appear in the world, even if the true immortal takes action, they will not be able to find their main altar. People do not know much about the crossing world sword studio, only that the disciples in the sect are all women. The successor of the next fasting master is called walking on earth. In human terms, it means a saint. However, Lu Xian knows something different. Although known as the Sword Studio, the cultivators who cross the world of Sword Studio are by no means the ones understood by ordinary people as cultivators. The disciples of this immortal sect behave abnormally and never avoid calamity. When encountering major events, one must participate; when encountering muddy waters, one must wade; when encountering danger, one must push horizontally. It can be said that accidents occur wherever they go. Such a sect that causes trouble everywhere not only has no enemies on all sides, but is also highly respected, naturally for a reason. The disciples of the Crossing World Sword Studio are very capable of fighting, especially capable of fighting, quite capable of fighting. Lu Xian used to wander in the martial arts world and once studied under a saint who had crossed the World Sword Studio. The other party's name is Cheng Hongtan. This happened over 8,000 years ago. At that time, my own personal master and Daoyan Sect leader, the real person, had just ascended. At that time, Lu Xian had only been practicing for 100 years and his strength was quite weak. But in order to find the true way to conceive, he chose to venture down the mountain and then met the saint of the Sword Studio who had crossed the world. As for the reason for apprenticeship, it's not because of the stunning appearance of that generation of saints, nor is it because of Cheng Xianzi's long legs, slender waist, delicate jade feet, and small size, nor is it because her master dressed in white silk and felt comfortable sleeping with her arms. It is because according to the notes left by the founder of Daoyan Sect, the immortal scriptures passed down from the Sword Studio of crossing the world have made great achievements in the realm of Yuan Ying. The cultivation scripture of Daoyan Sect, named Daoyan True Technique, was compiled by our ancestors based on the strengths of various schools. This cultivation manual covers everything and is the strongest immortal scripture in the entire Cangyuan Realm. Its body forging technique is derived from the first true scripture of Buddhism, and its chi refining realm is taken from the first Taoist treasure trove. The Golden Elixir technique also integrates the true understanding of the first inner alchemy immortal sect and the first outer alchemy immortal sect in the Cangyuan Realm. Only the Yuan Ying book was compiled by the founder himself. The reason is very simple. When my ancestor stole the immortal scriptures, he never hit the saint who crossed the world in the Sword Studio. Those who inherit the Tao are also those who steal and conceal. The so called Dao Yenzong actually means stealing and concealing the sect. This is a beaver. The founder of Daoyan Sect rose to prominence at the end of the year, achieving the position of true immortal fruit through his ordinary body, relying on his ability to pretend to be cute and new. In that era when all the major immortal sects strictly guarded their own cultivation of immortal scriptures, the founder of the mountain worshipped dozens of ancient great sects and secretly learned the true formulas of various immortal scriptures. He was pursued by both the righteous and demonic sects, as well as hundreds of immortal sects of all sizes. Such treatment has never existed before. Lu Xian flipped through the classics of Daoyan Sect and sighed with emotion that Grandmaster was really a ruthless person. The rules for entering the sect are strict, and one must check the gods and souls to see if they are undercover agents. In order to steal his master, the founder stored his martial arts skills in a secret treasure every time he learned one. At the same time, he risked his life and path to eliminate the danger of refining and reshaping his divine soul, cutting off his previous experiences. Not to mention outsiders, even he himself didn't know he had stolen a teacher before. The first step in deceiving others is to deceive oneself first. Using this method to repeatedly brush dungeons, the experience of danger is naturally more than 10 times that of ordinary people. But Grandmaster had great fortune. Not only did he not die, but he also established the Daoyan Sect forcefully, which made it difficult for major immortal sects to hold their heads up. Later, he even ascended to become an immortal, and no one in the world dared to underestimate him. Only before becoming a Taoist, he was beaten up by the Holy Maiden of the Sword Studio, and before ascending, he was still thinking about this matter. When Lu Xian flipped through his ancestor's letter at that time, he thought to himself that if the founder of the mountain could have half of his own handsomeness and find a way to seduce the saint, perhaps his grandson wouldn't have to worry about getting married now. The Taoist scriptures of the Crossing World Sword Studio are not open to outsiders, and only true disciples within the sect can practice. However, unlike other immortal sects, they do not open doors to accept disciples. Lu Xian was very ambitious at that time. In order to seek the method of giving birth to a baby, following the example of our ancestors, wronging ourselves, and paying homage to a master, there is nothing unacceptable. He craves someone else's true immortal cultivation, he is honest. The Holy Maiden of the Crossing World Sword Studio never accepts disciples outside. But Lu Xian still worshipped Cheng Hongtan as a man back then. The difficulties and twists and turns, as well as the coincidences of fate, can be imagined. However, the subsequent development exceeded his expectations. The ambitious Lu Xian did indeed take advantage, but the consequences of taking advantage were not quite right. The saint of the sword studio who crossed the world developed feelings for him. Her master became a mother, and her disciple became a husband. Over time, her filial piety deteriorated during this process. One can write a 1,000,000-word novel. As for why there are only 1,000,000 words. One is that the single female lead does not write long. Secondly, the two eventually broke up. It's not betrayal, it's not about stance. Neither of them did anything wrong, but in the end regarding this matter, Lu Xian doesn't really want to recall it. He has only had this one emotional experience in his life. The beginning is not bad, the middle is beautiful, and the ending is a mess. Finally, she returned to the secret realm of the Crossing World Sword Studio, and Lu Xian had never seen her again since then. At that time, Cheng Hongtan had already entered the transitional period. Lu Xian thought that she should have flown up. Coincidentally, the person he knew and the saint of the sword studio who crossed the world in front of him all surnamed Cheng. As a result, the memories that had been left behind by Lu Xian for a long time gradually came to mind. This experience of apprenticeship allowed Lu Xuanxue to learn about the inheritance of the immortal scriptures of the Crossing the World Sword Studio, and then to learn more about this immortal sect. For example, the Crossing World Sword Studio only has two types of cultivation methods. There are two types of killing techniques. One is the art of killing and attacking, and the other is the art of killing and attacking disguised as defensive methods. What does Lu Xuanxin say to kill and prove the truth? With the name, Crossing the World Sword Studio, only, sword, is related to the sect. However, at this moment, Lu Xian still felt puzzled in his heart. In his impression, the human walks in the sword studio of Crossing the World were all during the Mahayana period before descending the mountain. Why did the saint in front of her, with only the strength of the Golden Elixir, start experiencing the world of mortals? I thought Daoyan Sect would at least send a deity to come over. Cheng Lingzhu shook his head and interrupted Lu Xian's thoughts. But this can be understood. Daoyan Sect is now in a state of talent decline, and after so many years, there are not even a Mahayana cultivator. Cheng Lingzhu sighed in his heart, feeling sorry for Daoyan Sect. Daoyan Sect is in charge of teaching Qinjiangzi and is a cultivator who cultivates the realm of emptiness. This realm is not weak anymore, but compared to back then, it's not worth mentioning. The cultivation system of Cangyuan Realm is a combination of refining emptiness upwards and Mahayana upwards. The completion of the Mahayana is called the crossing of the Kulpas, which can be considered a special state of the Mahayana cultivators. During the heyday of Daoyan Sect, there were several cultivators who crossed the tribulation period in the sect, only one threshold away from the true immortal. Lu Xian. I don't know why. The junior sister in front of her clearly looks a few years younger than her 21-year-old self. But when speaking, it gave him a feeling of being old and experienced. Lu Xian sighed in his heart. Sure enough, nowadays in the cultivation world, it is popular to mature young. The saint is young and gentle, just like an old lady. There are not many young people like myself who remain consistent in their appearance. You have a great talent and have wasted your time in the Daoyan Sect. Should you consider switching to another immortal sect? I can write you a recommendation letter. Cheng Lingzhu pondered for a moment. Lu Xian thought to himself, what is this to persuade our ancestors to betray our ancestors and lead His Majesty to rebel? He refused the other party on the spot with strict words. Cheng Lingzhu didn't persist anymore and threw out a flying boat, ready to leave. After boarding the flying boat, she turned her head and found that Lu Xian had also followed. I haven't completed the task assigned by Daoyan Sect yet, so I can't just go back like this. Lu Xian has reason and evidence. I'm actually worried that the other party will fall into that dead city. Since she is the saint of the Crossing World Sword Studio, she can also be considered her own. A certain generation of disciple grandchildren. The dead city is eerie. If you dare to take a dungeon alone, you must have a trump card on your body. But Lu Xian felt that as an elder, since he had met future generations, he should also take some care of himself. Cheng Lingzhu agreed to his statement, so the two of them boarded the same flying magic weapon, set their direction, and flew towards the direction of the dead city. A man and a woman sailed in a flying boat. Lu Xian stood at the bow of the ship, standing in the wind, his white clothes fluttering, somewhat carefree. Behind him, Cheng Lingzhu looked at the background of Lu Xian, but frowned slightly. Why is the feeling that the other person brings to me so familiar when we only meet for the first time? End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Dead City. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Dead City. Near the coast, the air is moist and warm. Although it is early autumn now, the plants by the seaside are still lush and lush. The magic weapon flew smoothly, and Lu Xian turned around and suddenly spoke. Qing Daoyu, I have heard that the saints of your sect only enter the mortal world for training after the Mahayana period. Why did you leave the mountain so early, Daoyu? In his impression, the cultivation method of crossing the World Sword Studio is very special. At a certain stage of the peak of Mahayana, one will enter a state of transmigration, greatly weakening their own cultivation and falling to the realm of the Golden Elixir. At this point, it is necessary to go down the mountain and experience the world of mortals, and only after enlightenment can one enter the period of crossing calamity. Only saints have this strange state, which seems to be related to some kind of constitution. When the Grand Master stole the immortal scriptures, he happened to be at the peak of his state when the Holy Maiden's enlightenment came to an end. The first battle to consolidate the realm was to beat up the founder of Daoyan Sect. Lu Xian had the means to distinguish that the age and realm of the saint in front of him were the identity tokens, and there was no possibility of fraud. Unless she is like herself, Yuan Ying would run away, otherwise the person standing in front of her is truly a genuine golden core cultivator. Lu Daoyu has a wide range of knowledge. A hint of surprise flashed in Cheng Lingzhu's eyes. After a moment of contemplation, she explained. Thousands of years ago, we crossed the World Sword Studio and collaborated with the Great Dream Pure Land to develop a special secret technique. The saint inside the door descends from the mountain during the Golden Elixir period, preserving her insights. When the red dust calamity approaches, she will repeat it using the method of entering a dream. When she wakes up, she can directly enter the realm of crossing the calamity, which is even better for her cultivation than before. I see. Lu Xian understood clearly. The path of cultivation has been progressing and developing, and compared to the previous Mahayana period when one only went down the mountain to experience, this method of entering dreams and crossing tribulations is much more advanced. For example, when I was young and went down the mountain, my mind was not mature. After living for thousands of years, looking back at my past experiences can give me a lot of enlightenment. At the same time, because it is a dream deduction, walking the path of the mortal world again can make up for regrets in the dream and make one's cultivation more complete. A cultivator who can think of this method may also have some regrets in their heart. Lu Xian thought to himself. Lu Dao Yu, ahead is the area where the dead city is located. When a cultivator enters its radius of 100 miles, they will feel a noticeable discomfort. On the spiritual boat, Cheng Lingzhu reminded. The two have entered the range of the influence of the dead city aura. Lu Xian looked at the ground and saw that the plants had not changed, still in a green and lush state. But the feeling it brought him was very different from before. The operation method passed, and a faint light flashed in his eyes. All the scenes below the flying boat became delicate and vivid. The seemingly round leaves, with many small sharp teeth growing at the edges, are irregularly stacked and squeezed together. The originally smooth and straight branches become twisted in an almost spiral shape, with blood-like nodules crowded on them. Under the shadow, purple and black veins wrap around the bottom of the leaves. Around these veins, there are burrs tearing the surface of the leaves, and they crawl out in a ferocious and crazy manner, biting everything around them. Lu Xian knew that coastal plants should not exhibit this form. In the distance, the outline of the dead city has gradually become clear. Cheng Lingzhu frowned, his Taoist robe shining slightly to resist the discomfort around him. Lu Xian didn't feel much, as if the aura from the dead city had failed on him. Cheng Lingzhu glanced at him and found that the other person's expression remained normal. I don't know if it's a strong support or a secret treasure blessing on my body. The closer you get to the dead city, the darker the sky becomes. When it was within 10 miles of the dead city, the sky was already shrouded in a dark cloud. Dark as ink, extremely dull. Pada. A soft sound. In the sky, there are raindrops falling. Cheng Lingzhu reached out his hand, and a raindrop quietly slipped off his white and tender fingertips. But this raindrop is black. The raindrops emitted an aura of decay, falling to the ground and wriggling like living creatures, burrowing into the depths of the earth. Roaming. Above the sky, thunder roared. Cheng Lingzhu looked up and saw a black lightning bolt. A pouring rain is approaching. Cheng Lingzhu raised his hand and was about to receive another drop of rainwater. After waiting for a few breaths, his palms remained dry as usual. Looking back, it was Lu Xian who threw an umbrella behind her. That's a very beautiful oil paper umbrella, like it's shared by two people. If one person is willing to snuggle up in the arms of another, the size of the umbrella is just enough to cover both of them. The rain is not right. Cheng Lingzhu withdrew his hand. Not far away is the city, its walls pitch black and thick, reaching 100 zhang high, cold and dead silent. Are you still going inside? She lifted her head and stared at Lu Xian. Lu Xian held an umbrella and looked at the dead city, saying the most disliked sentence from his master. Everyone has come. Cheng Lingzhu took a few strong breaths, and there was a big bump in his chest. After entering later, don't be too far away from me. Did the person from Tianshui Temple open this door? Standing in front of the dead city, Lu Xian looked at the huge chain on the city gate, his black eyes slightly darkened. There are a total of 9 chains, like a black dragon coiled and ferocious. But now, 7 out of 9 chains have been broken. The originally closed city gate has also opened a gap that can accommodate several people to pass through. Cheng Lingzhu didn't think it was a good thing, just standing in front of this dead city, she felt a heavy sense of oppression. The open city gate is like an evil beast in the darkness, quietly lurking and devouring people. No, it's not. She shook her head. I asked the disciples of Tianshui Temple, when this dead city appeared, its gate was like this. Before coming to the dead city, Cheng Lingzhu went to Tianshui Temple. As the descendant of the Crossing World Sword Studio, the elders and disciples of Tianshui Temple dare not conceal her inquiries. Lu Xian nodded, thinking the same way. With the strength of a cultivator from Tianshui Temple, one should constantly manipulate this chain. The disciples of Tianshui Temple said that on the night when the dead city appeared, it also started to rain heavily in the sky. Lu Xian reached out his hand and pressed it against the city gate. The cold and slippery touch came from the palm of the hand, as if touching the body of a giant snake. And on this city gate, there are actually many intricate patterns engraved, with light carvings that feel very clear when touched by hand. The walls of the dead city are 100 zhang high, and the city gates are also extremely tall. At a height of 100 meters from the ground, the city gates have undergone deformation, with disorderly claw marks deeply imprinted on them. Lu Xian can imagine what kind of scenery it was like. On the night of the same rainstorm, something escaped from the dead city. He wriggled, twisted and struggled to get out of the city. The chain was torn, the city gate was torn and deformed, leaving his mark on it. Lu Xian slowly exhaled a breath, which turned into a white mist about a foot long, like a sharp sword aura. What day is today after the appearance of the dead city? Cheng Lingzhu thought for a moment and said. On the 33rd day. Lu Xian nodded slightly and remained silent. Behind me is a sky full of black rain, and in front of me is a decaying city. He collected his umbrella and walked into the city. Inside the dead city, it is also a darkness. There was a dead silence around, and Cheng Lingzhu's heartbeat quickened by a few beats. With her eyesight, she can only see things within 10 zhang. The architectural style within the dead city is vastly different from that of the Cangyuan Realm, with densely packed houses that are narrow and low. Lu Xian paused and walked towards the nearest room. Just as he was about to open the door, a delicate white hand reached out and blocked in front of him. Cheng Lingzhu spoke. Follow behind me, don't act rashly. This dead city is even more eerie than I imagined. Upon hearing her say this, Lu Xian had no choice but to give up. He leaned aside and made a "please" gesture. In Lu Xian's memory, when he placed dungeons in the past, there were often big shots taking him along. I didn't expect that after so many years, there would still be a gold pill master with a secret treasure on his body willing to take him. Cheng Lingzhu took a step forward, and just as he was about to open the door, he turned back and gave a warning. After entering, remember to be careful as there may be danger inside. This advice is a bit redundant, even Cheng Lingzhu thinks so. So after finishing speaking, she immediately pursed her mouth. I only met Lu Xian for half an hour, and it's not an exaggeration to say a stranger. As a saint of the Crossing World Sword Studio. Saying such words to someone you just met is clearly too close. Mother-in-law, she is not his master. Cheng Lingzhu shook her head slightly, but she didn't know the reason behind it. For some reason, after seeing Lu Xian, she felt a sense of familiarity in her heart. Just like when we first met, she expressed without hesitation that she was willing to introduce him to other sections. She is clearly not someone who likes to meddle in things. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Buddha Carving and Portraits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Buddha Carving and Portraits. As a cultivator, Cheng Lingzhu has a keen intuition and is well aware that she has never encountered such a situation before. On the other hand, Lu Xian was amazed in his heart. I thought to myself that after thousands of years of no contact, the saints of the sword studio have become so sociable. When he first met his master Cheng Hongtan, he was as cold as a big ice cube and refused to say a word more. Of course, it is possible that the saints at that time only descended during the Mahayana period. Although the strength is only comparable to that of the Golden Elixir, it is still a great ability and it is normal to be arrogant. Cheng Lingzhu didn't know what Lu Xian was thinking. She suppressed the distractions in her heart and extended a slender white jade hand. Her fingertips had magical power swirling around, pushing open the door through the air. The stale and ancient atmosphere flowed out from it. Dust rustled down from the door frame, and the two of them walked into it. The house is very large, reminiscent of the mansions of wealthy families in the secular world. It's just a house with no courtyard, only one room, and the rooms inside are separated by walls. The furniture and furnishings inside the house are not particularly unusual. But in the center of the house, there were two figures kneeling. These are two statues, which look like they are made of stone, both facing away from the door. Cheng Lingzhu instinctively held his breath and his spiritual consciousness swept over, only to find that these were two dead objects with no vitality. She glanced at Lu Xian, but he raised his hand and pointed ahead. Cheng Lingzhu looked in the direction he pointed and saw a shrine placed against the wall, covered with fabric covered in dust. If it weren't for this shrine being left unattended, it would probably be no different from the decoration of folk homes. Is this a Buddha statue? Cheng Lingzhu frowned and saw clearly what was enshrined in the shrine. Carved from black stone, dressed in a robe, with a bun on top of his head, sitting on a lotus platform, with a face full of bitterness and kindness. Lu Xian nodded, looked at each other, took a few steps forward, and came to the two kneeling stone statues, looking at the front together. Two stone statues, one male and one female, resembling a couple, are exquisitely carved. The rough edges and stitching on the corners of the clothes, the wrinkles and eyelashes on the face, and even the rough calluses on the hands are all clearly visible. If it comes from human hands, the person sculpting the statue must have cultivation, otherwise it would take too much time and effort to outline these details. Apart from the exquisite carving, what is even more noteworthy is the expression on the two stone statues, which is an extremely devout and revered expression, even containing a hint of emptiness and perfection. Subconsciously, Cheng Lingzhu looked towards the shrine and felt that these two spousal stone statues had also become filled with bitterness and kindness. Lu Xian raised his hand and his magic flowed. The Buddha statue inside the shrine flew straight out and landed in his hand. Cheng Lingzhu was shocked to see Lu Xian suddenly take the Buddha statue. Just wanted to stop, but it was still one step late. Fortunately, after he captured the statue of the black stone Buddha, nothing happened in the main hall. Cheng Lingzhu breathed a sigh of relief, but saw him flip the Buddha statue over and raise his eyebrows, clearly discovering something. Her gaze fell on the Buddha statue, only to notice that there was also a face carved on the back of the black stone Buddha statue. This face is completely different from the one in front, with a blue face and fangs, presenting an extremely insane state. The smile is ferocious, and only a hint of Buddha shape can be vaguely seen. The cracked mouth is like a demon, as if it is about to devour all living beings alive. Cheng Lingzhu's beautiful eyes narrowed slightly. She looked at the stone statue beside her, touching it with her hand, and a rough touch came from it. It's indeed a stone. Lu Xian nodded and placed one hand on the shoulder of the stone statue beside him. With a click, one arm of the stone statue was snapped off by him. Inside is also stone, with a texture that is no different from the surface. Lu Xian patted twice, and stone powder rustled down. Let's go see other houses. He spoke up. Cheng Lingzhu didn't speak, just nodded and followed behind him. Although she should have led the exploration herself, she had a natural trust in Lu Xian. Being in this dead city, she instinctively chose to believe in the other party. After a period of time, two people came out of the same house. Lu Xian and Cheng Lingzhu have already explored more than 10 nearby houses, and the layout inside is the same as the first house. There are stone carvings of evil Buddhas standing in shrines. There are mortal stone statues kneeling in front of the evil Buddha. What should we do now? Cheng Lingzhu looked at the pitch-black street and asked. The dead city is dark, shrouded in a mysterious power. With Cheng Lingzhu's cultivation, one can only see clearly what is within 10 zhang. I just took a look and the layout of this city is actually radial. After pondering for a moment, Lu Xian reached out in the air and used his magic to draw a square. Diagonal intersection determines the center point, and then multiple straight lines pass through this point. The houses in the city are all built on these lines, arranged straight, with a circular area in the middle, which is the core area of the city. Lu Xian explained. He had just visited about 10 households and had already seen the layout of the dead city. Can you see things in the distance clearly? Cheng Lingzhu asked. Our Daoyan Sect was also a major sect back then, and there were still quite a few things at the bottom of the box. Lu Xuanru answered. This statement is not a lie. After all, the biggest trump card of Dao Yenzong is Lu Xian himself. Unlike Qing Lingzhu, the darkness of the dead city cannot block Lu Xian's sight. Standing on the open street, he can see clearly what exactly exists in the center of the city, that is an extremely tall black Buddhist temple. After a stick of incense. Standing on the steps of the Buddhist temple, Qing Lingzhu's face turned slightly pale and his breathing became rapid. This dead city gives her a very bad feeling. After entering the city, it is even more so. The closer you get to the Buddhist temple, the stronger the corrupt atmosphere becomes, and the invisible pressure from the dead city also becomes heavier and heavier. No cultivator would like this kind of environment. The Taoist robe on Qing Lingzhu's body shines with strange patterns, as if he is fighting against some kind of force. Lu Xian noticed the change in Qing Lingzhu's expression and thought to himself, is the psychological quality of the Holy Maiden in the Crossing World Sword Studio too poor now? When I first met Cheng Hongtan, this Mahayana powerhouse with the power of the Golden Elixir allowed Lu Xian to see what it means to crazily criticize and kill stars. If Qing Lingzhu knew what he was thinking in his heart, he would definitely cry out for himself. How can she compare her psychological qualities to a Mahayana cultivator who has lived for thousands of years, as a young Jindan girl? Lu Xian reached out his hand and snapped his fingers. In the darkness, a little star light appeared and landed on Qing Lingzhu. Qing Lingzhu immediately felt that the decaying spiritual energy of the world around him was isolated, and even the sense of oppression disappeared. She thanked Lu Xian, thinking that he had used the secret treasure from the Daoyan Sect to help her resist the influence from the dead city. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Evil Buddha Hall, Phoenix Blood Sword, and Golden Elixir with a slight gap in cultivation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. Evil Buddha Hall, Phoenix Blood Sword, and Golden Elixir with a slight gap in cultivation. With the blessing of Lu Xian's secret technique, Qing Lingzhu's heart calmed down. The Buddhist temple is extremely tall, with dark stone steps in front of it, and its edges and corners are worn out, giving it a weathered appearance. A weapon was taken out by Qing Lingzhu from the storage treasure. This object is wrapped in black silk, like a long sword. Lu Xian felt a bit familiar, but didn't think much. He just thought that this thing should be a secret treasure brought out by Qing Lingzhu from the sect. You come and protect my back. Qing Lingzhu stepped on the steps and turned to Lu Xian, saying. Her waist is slender and plump to grip, but the areas where there should be flesh are very abundant. The Taoist robe seemed to be slightly tighter, outlining Qing Lingzhu's figure, and his back was very beautiful. Lu Xian suddenly remembered that many years ago, Cheng Hongtan had said similar things to him. The only difference is probably that her master is very poor, while Qing Lingzhu's figure is really good. With a slightly dazed expression, he nodded. I will not betray the trust of my fellow Taoist. So Qing Lingzhu confidently handed his back to Lu Xian, one person in front and one person behind, and climbed onto this Buddhist temple. Dudu, dudu, dudu. Approaching the palace gate, Qing Lingzhu heard the sound of knocking on the wooden fish. This sound is very regular, or rather mechanical, and the spacing, intensity, and sound produced during each tapping are completely consistent. The two of them arrived at the front of the main hall, with the door open. In the spacious hall, 4 figures knelt and sat with their backs to the door. From the side, it can be seen that the 4 people are holding jianji in their hands, using it to strike wooden fish, and the sound they make echoes throughout the entire hall. Qing Lingzhu noticed that these 4 figures were all dressed in the attire of cultivators from Tianshui Temple. 3 of them were dressed in disciple robes, and the other was dressed in elder attire. They turned their backs to Lu Xian and the others. Dudu, dudu, dudu. At the next moment, the sound of knocking on the wooden fish paused, and the 4 figures turned their heads together, like puppets, looking towards the 2 of them. His gaze was empty and dull, not like a living person. With a face full of bitterness and kindness, it reminds people of the clay sculptures in the temple. Doo-doo, doo-doo, doo-doo. The sound of the wooden fish rang out again, but the four figures did not turn back. The frequency of tapping the wooden fish became faster and faster, and 8 eyes stared straight at Lu Xian and Lingzhu. Lingzhu's breath froze. In front of the four people, at the deepest part of the main hall, where the Buddha statue should be enshrined, lay a huge black shadow. The sound of the wooden fish became increasingly rapid and sharp, as if it had turned into a substantial cone, ready to tear open the minds of the two. The four members of Tianshui Temple stared at Lu Xian and Lingzhu, their expressions constantly changing. The bitterness and kindness faded away, but their faces wore eerie smiles, their mouths wide open, their flesh and blood began to crack, and their smiles almost reached their ears. This looks like the face behind the black-faced stone Buddha. Lingzhu frowned and grasped the hilt of her sword. The dazzling blood burst out from the scabbard. The black silk wrapped around the long sword shattered and peeled off inch by inch. The sword was unsheathed, bright as blood and shining like a glow. Lingzhu took a step forward and danced with green hair all over her head. At the moment she drew her sword, her hairpin shattered inch by inch, leaving no more binding power. Her aura surged step by step, her eyes turned red, and the agility in her eyes faded away, replaced by a coldness and indifference. Lu Xian's pupils suddenly narrowed. Not surprised by the changes in Lingzhu's body, but because he knows the sword she used. This brilliant blood sword is clearly Cheng Hongtan's original weapon. Judging from the breath that emanates after being unsheathed, the decision is not wrong. But shouldn't she have already ascended to the upper realm? The Benming magic weapon is completely different from ordinary magic treasures. Since the day of embarking on the path, it has been nurtured by the cultivator and is already considered a part of the cultivator's body. If you soar at once, you must bring your own destiny weapon to kill the enemy and protect the path. Lu Xian's heart sank slightly. In the main hall, Lingzhu had already swung out with a sword. The sword studio cultivates the art of killing and attacking. The four members of the Tianshui Temple have long been possessed by the demon, and she will not hold back. The sword body is as red as the clouds, dazzling and dazzling, as if there is phoenix blood flowing. It is amazing. The blood-colored sword light, wrapped in a murderous sword intent, crushed the bodies of the four people in Tianshui Temple, and then, without diminishing their power, slashed towards the dark figure deep in the hall. Lingzhu saw the true appearance of the black shadow clearly. It's not that the sword light is too dazzling, reflecting everything in the main hall, but that the other party took the initiative to show their appearance. The towering demon flame ignited on its own, with a green face and fangs, a bun on its head, and a huge monster burning with a blue and black flame in its eyes. It was sitting on the lotus platform at this moment. This is an evil Buddha. This evil Buddha has a huge body, just sitting, it is as tall as the 100-meter hall. 12 chains extended from the lotus platform, binding and imprisoning the evil Buddha, making it unable to leave for half a step. However, a pitch-black demonic flame enveloped her, surging out and still engulfing the sword light cut by Lingzhu, melting away her attack. Lingzhu lifted his head, his eyes lit up with red light, and his body moved forward without retreating. He took a step forward and lifted his long sword. In that moment, her momentum rose again, and a strange image appeared all over her, spreading out like a scroll. The mountains and rivers are toppling, the lives are charred, the corpses are mountains and seas of blood, crazy and terrifying. Lingzhu stood on top of the crazy mountain and the terrifying sea, with long blood bones at his feet. The vision dyed the sky and earth crimson and dazzling. However, the fairy clothes in the painting were not stained with blood, and even the red light in his eyes faded and restrained. His eyebrows and eyes were cold, like exiled immortals. A blood-colored halo unfolded, like a bright moon on the sea. The red blood moon slowly rose and appeared behind her. At this moment, the aura on Lingzhu's body had already reached its peak. She raised her hand, and the various visions collapsed behind her, transforming into a dot, piercing forward with the sword's momentum. It was like cutting butter with a hot knife, pouring hot oil into the snow, and the pitch-black flames were separated by this sword and scattered to both sides. The sword's momentum and sharpness are unparalleled, piercing straight into the heart of the evil Buddha. Bang! The demonic flames exploded and scattered throughout the sky. At the chest of this evil Buddha, a huge and unparalleled wound appeared, transparent both front and back, and was actually pierced by this sword. In the eyes of the evil Buddha, the blue and black flames flickered, like residual candles in the wind, almost extinguished. The illusion in the main hall dissipated, the red moon shattered, and Lingzhu fell from the air, leaning on the ground with a long sword, struggling to support his body. A pair of clear eyes stared fixedly at the evil Buddha not far away. However, the result disappointed her. After a few breaths, the blue and black flames stabilized and reignited. She sighed in her heart. The gap between oneself and the evil Buddha is still too great. Even if this evil Buddha is trapped by the lotus platform and sealed in this dead city for countless years, his cultivation will regress without a trace. Its preserved strength is still terrifyingly strong. She has a trump card in her hand, and the ancestral spirit subduing technique she just used is currently the strongest strike she can unleash. But the power of this secret technique is limited by the practitioner's own strength. The Golden Elixir realm uses its strength to unleash its power, but ultimately its power is only slightly inferior. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Lu Xian. Not afraid, can beat. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Lu Xian. Not afraid, can beat inside the main hall. Evil Buddha never dies, he laughs from the sky. The earth trembled, and suddenly many breath of life appeared throughout the entire dead city. With a flick of his eyebrows, Lu Xianmei turned around with a feeling and saw the scene inside the dead city. The evil Buddha Hall is located at the very center of the entire city and has been built extremely high. Standing at the entrance of the main hall, one can overlook the entire city. At this moment, all the houses in the city are wide open. Shadows walked out of it one by one, swaying in all the people in the city. However, their faces were all smirked with madness, and their expressions were no different from those of the evil Buddha in the palace. Lu Xian noticed that some of them lacked arms, which were the result of the stone statues he had broken before. The evil Buddha laughed wildly, as if mocking. In this dead city, I am the only ruler. If I want to transform a person into a stone, that person is a stone. If I want to transform a stone statue into a person, that stone statue must be transformed into a person. This is a change in the level of law, where the so-called law is approaching and its control over the dead city has already permeated every corner. Lu Xian shook his head and faced the evil Buddha. Being ostentatious and restrained by others is not considered carefree. If you really have great powers, why don't you come down from the lotus platform? If you are truly the lord of this city, why are you trapped here? The one who escaped from this place is another being. After listening, the evil Buddha stopped laughing and clenched his fist, becoming angry. Lingzhu pulled at Lu Xian's hem, with a worried expression on his small face. At this moment, one should not provoke this demon. She also saw the situation of the evil Buddha. The other party appears arrogant, but in reality, they are restrained and their body is locked by the lotus platform, and their power cannot be transmitted outside the main hall. Just as the evil Buddha was laughing, Lingzhu signaled to Lu Xian to leave quickly. As long as he is outside the main hall, the evil Buddha cannot directly attack the two people, and the only power he can use is the stone statues in the dead city. She is now running out of oil and the lamp is dry. With so many small subordinates under the hands of the evil Buddha, it may not be easy to deal with. But with the perfect strength of Lu Xianjin Dan, taking her out of the city should not be a problem. Cheng Lingzhu planned in his heart that after leaving, he would set up an altar to convey the message to the Crossing World Sword Studio, calling for the entire dead city to be razed. The plan is quite good, but unfortunately there was a mistake in the first step. Lu Xian won't leave. Cheng Lingzhu felt both anxious and angry in his heart, not worried about his own life. The saint descended the mountain, and naturally there were more than one backhand. In addition to the recent ancestors' surrender, Cheng Lingzhu also brought out many magic treasures. From group attacks to individual attacks, they are all focused on killing and attacking. However, this was her first time using her ancestors' soul-subduing secret technique, and she didn't expect it to consume so much. The magic in her body was so small that she didn't even have enough to activate the magic weapon. But that doesn't mean Cheng Lingzhu can't leave. There are always things in the world that go beyond ordinary treasures. She also has a trump card in her hand, which is the human walking order of the Crossing World Sword Studio. With just one thought, even if separated by billions of miles of mountains and rivers, even with numerous formations and powerful blockades, she can still directly return to the sect. The dead city is eerie, but Cheng Lingzhu cannot be trapped. This is the essence of the top immortal sect, where even the Holy Maiden and Sun are outside, making it difficult to die. Cheng Lingzhu doesn't want to use this token. Because once you choose to use the human walking order, it means the end of this journey of worldly experience. She has just come down the mountain and needs to use a token to run away. During the first mission in the history of Du Shi Jian Zhai, there has never been such a saint. Running away now, not to mention affecting the path, I still feel ashamed after returning to the sect. Moreover, as soon as she leaves now, if Lu Xian stays behind to confront the evil Buddha, she will definitely die and be eliminated. Cheng Lingzhu doesn't think he has a way to deal with the evil Buddha. All of them are in the realm of the Golden Elixir. Even if Lu Xian had the means to subdue his ancestors, how strong could he be? After all, their ancestors never fought against their own ancestors back then, and it must be the same after becoming immortals. Moreover, Cheng Lingzhu heard that in the past few thousand years, the connection between the founder of Daoyan Sect and the sect seems to have been severed, and even the founder of the mountain does not appear during the ceremony. I can't even use the means of my ancestors' surrender. She reasonably speculated that perhaps the ancestor of Daoyan Sect had stolen his teacher somewhere else. This time, the memory was deleted too cleanly, forgetting about Daoyan Sect. Cheng Lingzhu didn't want Lu Xian to die, nor did he want his journey to the mortal world to end so early. He just wanted to find a way to persuade him. Brother Lu. Cheng Lingzhu grabbed Lu Xian's sleeve with one hand and sniffed, trying to make a pitiful appearance. Let's go. The book says that a weak girl can arouse a man's desire for protection, so Cheng Lingzhu decided to give it a try. Lu Xian. I won't leave. Senior brother, keep the Green Mountains here, not afraid of burning firewood. I can't beat this guy now. Cheng Lingzhu shook his sleeve. Lu Xian. I can fight it. Cheng Lingzhu was breathing heavily, his chest heaving. This guy's head is probably not made of immortal gold, so rigid. No, it said that immortal gold can still give birth to spiritual intelligence after being stored for a long time. Why doesn't he even understand the principles of seeking benefits and avoiding harm? Fortunately, she still wronged herself and called out a few senior brothers. Cheng Lingzhu felt like he was at a loss. Lu Xian gave her a strange glance. How did the disciples of the Crossing World Sword Studio become so greedy and afraid of death? Cheng Lingzhu. Why am I still being looked down upon? Are you familiar with our Crossing the World Sword Studio? The legitimate disciple of the Crossing World Sword Studio, Lu Xian, shook his head in disdain. During the recent battle, Cheng Lingzhu would exude a killing aura that belonged to the Crossing World Sword Studio. He remembered the days when he apprenticed, and Cheng Hongtan was a truly crazy person. She went wherever there was danger, to the point where Lu Xian suspected that she wanted to murder her husband. During the time he followed her, Lu Xian took all the risks he could take in his life, surviving purely on his fair face and hard life, plus the grace of heaven. A man and a woman stood in the main hall, chatting haphazardly. The evil Buddha is not satisfied. As the lord of this place, being ignored by the two people made the evil Buddha very angry. The demonic flame surged, and the flames in his eyes flickered. A huge green and black palm, suppressing it. This is not a substantive attack, but a power of law that envelopes both of them. Lu Xian looked at the evil Buddha and frowned. But a scream of surprise came from beside me. This voice appears slightly immature. He turned his head and saw that Cheng Lingzhu's figure was starting to shrink. The originally bulging collar has become flat, and the figure has shrunk and changed, transforming from a girl of 17 or 18 years old to a child of 11 or 12 years old. The Taoist robe on her body is a magic weapon that can adjust its size on its own, but her figure changes too quickly and she couldn't keep up for a while. Lu Xian looked at Loli wearing a loose Taoist robe and felt very cute. He instinctively reached out and pinched her face. Lingzhu Xiaoyuli's body stiffened and she glared at him, her face quickly turning red. Lu Xian coughed twice and smiled awkwardly and politely. He didn't mean to be frivolous, but when it comes to Cheng Lingzhu, it definitely feels different. However, with such a squeeze from Lu Xian, Cheng Lingzhu's state was also stabilized and his age no longer changed. The evil Buddha used a method involving the law of time, and Lu Xian had some knowledge of this Tao. So he reached out and pinched Cheng Lingzhu's face, breaking the secret of the evil Buddha. As for himself, of course, he is also in a state of change. It's just a cycle of going back from 21 to 24, then going through 23, 22, and then back to 21. Because he wanted to try the other party's methods, Lu Xian deliberately did not resist. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Strange Dreams. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Strange Dreams, a bit exquisite, but not too strong. Lu Xian sensed for a moment. At this point, the living beings in the dead city had already gathered near the main hall under the control of the evil Buddha. The sea of people is densely packed, with hundreds of thousands surrounding the entire evil Buddha temple. Lu Xian released his sword from his waist and leaned on the ground. The long sword with a scabbard struck the ground, causing ripples of magic to spread from his feet. On this day, a huge pillar of light descended along the coast, penetrating the sky and earth, covering a radius of hundreds of miles. Cheng Lingzhu had a dream. She dreamed that she had become very strong, even stronger than the evil Buddha in the dead city. The powerful Cheng Lingzhu was crossing the tribulation, while the 9 heavenly thunder, which was gathered by Yudao, came crashing down with the great power of heaven and earth. However, she was chopped to pieces with her phoenix blood sword in her hand, effortlessly like chopping melons and vegetables. This made her feel so good that she temporarily forgot about the unhappiness in her heart. As for why he felt unhappy, Cheng Lingzhu didn't know either. She just felt like she had an argument with someone before crossing the calamity. In a fit of anger, he ran to cross the robbery. Dreams are always vague, and the logic and motivation in dreams are also difficult to clarify. Fortunately, being angry does not affect Du Jie, because her strength is too strong, and Tian Jie can no longer stop her. The only downside is that, for some reason, despite having slender legs while crossing the tribulation, the front of my body is impoverished and insignificant, as if it had shrunk without any ripples. Cheng Lingzhu lowered her head to take a look, frowned, and pinched a magic spell. Just as she was about to grow bigger, the divine thunder in the sky dissipated, and the heart demon calamity suddenly arrived. In the clouds, the figure of Lu Xian emerged. Beside him, the sound of birds, swallows, and swallows playing and laughing came, surrounded by many beautiful women. There are white silk fairy, black silk witch, barefoot fairy, empress in Huafu, Qinglan Kundo, and Zi Nuni hard, Cheng Lingzhu's fists are hard. Like a beautiful family, from childish to mature, with a variety of types, many of which are abundant and proud, far surpassing their impoverished selves. The man was among them, embracing each other with a smile on his face. It seems that this is the scene after her ascension. Lu Xian has gained a big forest, and she has also gained a piece of green. Cheng Lingzhu gritted his teeth and warned himself in his heart that everything he saw was illusory, and it was all a mental disorder. Not true. Then she saw a witch gently lay down Lu Xian, undressed him, and then gave herself a provocative smile, ready to ride up. Cheng Lingzhu couldn't bear it anymore, holding on to the phoenix blood sword with both hands and slashing it with one sword. This sword shattered the illusion in front of him, but also shattered his own path. Ah! Cheng Lingzhu suddenly woke up with a start. There is cold sweat oozing from the forehead. She gasped heavily, touched her chest, and finally breathed a sigh of relief after confirming that she was still alive and had not shrunk. This dream is very strange. She knew Lu Xian for less than half a day and had such an inexplicable dream, which made Cheng Lingzhu feel absurd. But the dream just now was too real, with a strong sense of immersion, making her look dazed. Beside him was the phoenix blood sword, just like the one in the dream, but with a much weaker aura. Do you want to drink tea? On the side, Lu Xian was brewing tea when he saw Cheng Lingzhu suddenly waking up and blinking at her. Cheng Lingzhu looked around and found himself in a forest. Underneath was a large bed woven with vines, very clean, probably using some kind of wooden magic to allow plants to grow. Smooth touch and good elasticity. Lu Xian cleared an open space, set up a fire, and was brewing tea. Cheng Lingzhu remained silent without answering. It's probably due to that dream. When she saw Lu Xian again, her mood suddenly became very complicated. Lu Xian didn't continue speaking, just handed over the tea. His mood is not too good either. After killing the evil Buddha, Cheng Lingzhu fainted due to excessive strength, but it was not a big deal. So he found a place and waited for the other person to wake up. When she was unconscious, Lu Xian glanced at the phoenix blood sword. It's the handle that my master used back then. Unlike other magic weapons, this type of weapon is rare when flying up to the upper realm without carrying a mobile phone. And inside this phoenix blood sword, the spirit of the artifact is silent and cannot be awakened. With Lu Xian's knowledge, he could guess that there might have been a mistake when his master crossed the tribulation that year. But Lu Xian also had doubts in his heart. With Cheng Hongtan's amazing talent back then, it is not difficult to cross the tribulation and become an immortal. Even if it really fails, there should be a backup. He shook his head and withdrew his thoughts. There is still something to do now, we will think about it later. Cheng Lingzhu has now regained calmness, and Lu Xian handed over the teacup. How are you feeling now? Thank you. Senior Brother Lu. Cheng Lingzhu held a teacup in both hands and sipped. I feel much better now. That evil Buddha has already been solved by me, as well as the surrounding pollution problem, so I brought you out. Lu Xian said. Upon hearing this, Cheng Lingzhu thought for a moment. How did Senior Brother deal with that evil Buddha? Lu Xian took a sip of tea. My hanging is bigger than yours. Cheng Lingzhu. She understood what Lu Xian meant. The other party probably wants to say that the treasure he brought is quite powerful. But this matter is slightly more complicated than we imagined. Lu Xian took out something from the storage lever and handed it to Cheng Lingzhu. That is a palm-sized lotus platform, as if made of blue jade, which looks very exquisite. Is this the lotus platform under the evil Buddha's throne? Cheng Lingzhu identified this object. Not bad. Lu Xuanzhan's head. After killing the evil Buddha, I learned some different information through this lotus platform. Cheng Lingzhu listened quietly. This evil Buddha was originally a great demon, from an extremely ancient era. His strength should have been very strong back then, so strong that even his ability to suppress him could not kill him. We can only seal it within the city of death, using the power of time to constantly weaken its power and attempt to completely destroy it. Lu Xian pondered for a moment. As for the people in the city, they were originally guardians left by the great power to guard the demon, but the existence of suppressing the demon did not expect that the monster trapped on the lotus platform would one day be cured of a long illness, comprehend the superior Buddhism, and find a way to escape. With its long lifespan, this demon has endured generations of guardians to death, infiltrating its power into the city and secretly driving changes within the city. In the end, it has tampered with history and transformed into a true Buddha. The people who were originally guarding the demon have also become followers of the evil Buddha, the way to escape. Upon hearing these words, Lingzhu pondered. Isn't this monster trapped on the lotus platform, unable to even leave the main hall? In fact, the evil Buddha had already escaped from the dead city, which happened 30.3 days ago on the night when the dead city was born. Lu Xian spoke up and took out the black-faced Buddha statue from the homes of the people in the dead city. But those who escaped from the dead city are both evil Buddhas and not evil Buddhas. The black-faced Buddha statue in his hand has two faces. One is bitter and merciful, while the other is ferocious and terrifying. Lu Xian held the black-faced Buddha statue with both hands and twisted his wrist. With a click, the Buddha statue shattered. A small Buddha statue the size of a thumb fell out of the body of the black-faced Buddha statue. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Why is a double bed? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Why is a double bed? This is the Dharma of the 3 lifetimes of Buddhism. Lu Xian pointed to the fragments of the stone Buddha on the ground. The seal of this lotus platform is strong, and even at the peak of the demon's power, it cannot be broken. However, after sitting on the lotus platform for many years, he found a way out. Lu Xian pinched the ferocious Buddha face. He divided himself into 3 parts. His past body, which was once a demon body, stayed in the city of death and was imprisoned, while his present and future bodies escaped. The 3 lifetimes are one entity, but each has its own consciousness, which can barely be considered as different individuals. That's why when Lu Xian interrogates the evil Buddha inside the evil Buddha hall, the other party shows such anger. After all, it is he who is imprisoned, and the other 2 bodies are enjoying the freedom. Lingzhu's eyebrows gradually furrowed. Since that's the case, isn't the heavenly demon dressed in a monk's robe already starting to cause trouble for the people? 33 days. It's not too long. If there were really disasters, they wouldn't have erupted so quickly. Lu Xian recalled the recent Shuzhen daily and said, nothing has happened so far. Before the disaster occurs, I am confident that I will catch him back. Upon hearing these words, Lingzhu felt a little calm in his heart. Also, after this matter is over, I have some things that I would like to inquire about with Qing Daoyu. Lu Xian drank all the tea in his cup and said in a warm voice. Don't worry, it won't involve your sect's secret remedies, it's just about an old friend. Please don't refuse, Taoist friend. Lingzhu thought for a moment and said. Excuse me, senior brother. Lingzhu knows everything without hesitation. Of course, if you have any questions, you can also ask me. Especially regarding the cultivation of the Golden Elixir period, I know quite a lot about this. Lu Xian is very confident. For cultivation, Lingzhu has nothing to ask, but when he first got up, his palm touched the edge of the bed. She casually pressed the bed board a few times, feeling very elastic. Lu Xian noticed Lingzhu's movements and thought she wanted to learn this method of weaving vines. Unexpectedly, Lingzhu came up with a mysterious sentence. Why is it a double bed? Lu Xian. What? Xianzi's focus is very strange. In fact, since she woke up, Lu Xian felt that the saint in front of him was a bit off. But the key is he can really answer this question. A normal cultivator would not develop this kind of technique that promotes the growth of vines and plants, allowing them to grow into furniture on their own. Even a normal cultivator would not make a bed on the spot for a comrade to lie down after they become unconscious, a problem that can be solved with just a wooden board, a cloud, or a flying carpet requires the consumption of mana to stimulate plant growth, creating a bed that is more than enough for two people to fight. It really makes people feel strange. Lu Xian admitted that he had only developed this technique after his filial piety had hardened. The natural purpose is it is more convenient to enhance the relationship between master and apprentice when you are in the wilderness with your master. Today, Lingzhu was unconscious and he casually cast a spell to weave a bed. It can only be said that doing too much is due to habit. Of course, he definitely cannot tell Shengnu about this matter. So Lu Xian explained. The bed is a bit larger, which is more convenient to lie down and watch the stars. It's also more comfortable to sit on. Lingzhu looked up at the sky. It is currently noon, with tree shadows mottled and sunlight scattered. Looking at her appearance, Lu Xian smiled but remained silent. People like Shengnu, who have never experienced it before, certainly wouldn't know that sometimes there are stars in people's eyes. Half an hour later. Lingzhu, who was meditating on the double bed, opened his eyes. Her eyes were exhausted, her eyes were agile, and her pupils were like autumn water. Ancestors' descent belongs to the forbidden technique of immortality. Essentially, it is to communicate with the altar of the sect as a special identity of the Holy Maiden and Son, to pull a ray of true spiritual power over and bless oneself, thereby achieving a leap in combat power. There are two basic requirements for using this forbidden technique. One reason is that there is someone above, so non-top level immortal sects cannot use it. The second requirement is to be recognized as a saint in the sect ceremonies, and to be in charge of the sect in the future, in order to be eligible to mobilize this power. After casting this secret spell, the caster's mana, stamina, and divine soul power will be completely depleted and require time to recover. Besides, there is no cost or consequence. Even at lower levels, being able to glimpse the mysteries of the immortal path is very beneficial for future cultivation. This is the disciple of the top immortal sect. Apart from the advantage of cultivation resources, the cheats opened are larger than others. Lu Xian expressed great envy towards this. Daoyan Sect has produced more than one true immortal, but has not passed down such a spirit-lowering method. There have been historical faults in the Cangyuan Realm, with the establishment of the Daoyan Zone as a node. The history before the establishment of Daoyan Sect is called Ancient Times, and after its establishment it is called Modern Times. Only immortal disciples who have existed since ancient times and have been passed down to this day can unleash this secret technique. The history of ancient times is unclear, and many books and classics have been lost. Even among these immortal sects, there are not many records of that era. In theory, the founder of Daoyan Sect emerged in the late ancient times and personally ushered in the modern era. Daoyan Sect should be considered as half an ancient immortal sect no matter what. But within the sect, there is no forbidden technique of ancestral descent that has been passed down. Regarding this issue, Lu Xian speculates. Perhaps it is related to the fact that Grandmaster once stole 100 teachers. Cut one volume here and steal another volume there, to the extent that there are too many sources of the Daoyan Jinju. If a disciple uses the ancestor's spirit subduing prohibition technique, it may be possible to extract other people's ancestors from the big card pool. Senior Brother Lu, what should we do next? Lingzhu's eyes were clear and bright, and his condition had returned to its peak. Of course, I'm going to find the other 2 lifetimes of the evil Buddha. Lu Xian's work has a beginning and an end. Where can I find it? Lingzhu felt a bit confused. Upon hearing this, Lu Xian reached out and rubbed his temples. Actually, he has some regrets. Playing moves too quickly in the Dead City, one sword killed the evil Buddha. The entire Dead City was annihilated by a single move, and the evil Buddha died too cleanly, leaving no breath left. If we could leave a little bit of the demon body behind, the matter would be easily resolved. But it's not without ideas. After some thought, Lu Xian said. If this demon wants to restore his strength, there are only two paths to take. One is to use the method of heavenly demons, slaughter creatures, and absorb the essence and blood source. The possibility of doing so is not high. He has read the Shuzhen daily in the past few days and has not found any mischief caused by the demon. After all, the heavenly demon is not foolish. Conducting large-scale killings with too much noise can easily be targeted by the powerful Cangyuan Realm. After being sealed for a long time in the Dead City, the strength of the heavenly demon was greatly weakened, and it was not easy to escape without taking such a risk. The second path is probably to utilize the Buddha's teachings that he has comprehended. Lu Xian thought of the controlled people in the Dead City, as well as the Tianshui temple cultivators who were knocking on wooden fish and holding string puppets in the evil Buddha temple. This method of infiltration and bewitching is silent and much more low-key than the first method. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The genius not suitable for this bowl of rice. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The genius not suitable for this bowl of rice. Upon hearing these words, Cheng Lingzhu's eyes lit up. That is to say, we should go to some ordinary places where people gather, are relatively remote and backward, and are prone to being misled and cultivating beliefs. Lu Xian glanced at her with some surprise. The reaction is so fast. This year's Cross-World Sword Studio Saint is very smart. Noticing Lu Xian's gaze, Cheng Lingzhu straightened his waist and proudly raised his chin. People living together with a dense population are conducive to developing believers and collecting the power of faith. In remote and backward areas, there are many obscene temples. This is because the cultivation civilization is not developed, and demons use some methods to summon wind and rain, which are regarded as immortal families. The people are ignorant and easy to deceive. Lu Xian didn't go down the mountain for a long time and was not familiar with the coastal areas, but Cheng Lingzhu made preparations. She retrieved the map from the storage treasure and spread it out. The two of them screened according to the conditions and spent the time of 1 cup of tea, locking in the target, Dongping Kingdom. This is a nearby martial arts country, about 50,000 miles away from the Dead City. The distribution of spiritual energy in the Cangyuan Realm is not uniform. The spiritual energy in Dongping Kingdom is thin, and although there are cultivators in the country, the realm is very low. After determining the direction, Lu Xian threw the lotus platform upwards and pinched a spell. The blue lotus platform swelled in the wind and quickly became a flying magic weapon that could accommodate 2 people. Lu Xian took the lead in sitting on it, followed by Cheng Lingzhu, who lifted the hem of his Taoist robe without hesitation and sat beside him. A blue light flashed through the sky, and the two of them headed straight southwest. Sitting on the lotus platform, flying smoothly and quickly. At this moment, Cheng Lingzhu suddenly noticed that a blue light was released from under the lotus platform, enveloping him, dazzling with green. Cheng Lingzhu quietly moved his position. The green light followed and moved over. Cheng Lingzhu stood up. The green light is as high as her head. Cheng Lingzhu ran to the end of the lotus platform. The green light also ran with her. Lu Xian noticed her movements and spoke up at the right time. This is the protective blue light of the lotus platform. If 2 people ride this magic weapon together, the lotus platform will automatically protect the weaker one. Cheng Lingzhu. She swore in her heart that she would practice well after this incident. Otherwise, even the magic weapon will bully oneself. When flying was boring, Lu Xian remembered what had happened in the evil Buddha temple before and asked. Qing Daoyu, how did your illusion of bloodline wheel come about? The blood wheel of killing he referred to here refers to the blood moon condensed from behind when Cheng Lingzhu used his ancestral spirit to surrender. Slaughter bloodline is a top-level illusion that, after being formed, has a very high bonus to the skill of slaughter, and the coagulation conditions are also extremely strict. As far as Lu Xian knows personally, there are probably several requirements. One is to kill enough animals, not too many. The second is that the quality of the slain must be good enough, not ordinary beasts, they must be spiritual beasts of cultivators. The third is that killing one's own business must be done with one's own hands, primitive and simple, the more direct the better. Poisoning curses, sacrificing formations, or triggering natural disasters can only calculate cause and effect, and even a futile effort cannot produce a blood wheel of slaughter. The fourth is that the intention of killing must be pure enough. Only cultivators who sincerely follow the path of killing and slaughter without any distractions can meet the requirements. Finally, looking at the face, under the premise of meeting the above four conditions, if luck is good enough, there is a chance to condense into a blood wheel of slaughter. Lu Xian doesn't like to kill, although this kind of illusion has a strong impact on combat power, he has never attempted to condense it. Lu Xian didn't believe that anyone could actually create this kind of illusion that only exists in legends before. It wasn't until he met Cheng Hongtan and became a disciple that he realized his master had one. Cheng Hongtan is very honest about this matter, killing enemies has no calculation, and a vision is formed on its own. Starting from embarking on the path of cultivation and continuing until the Mahayana period, the heart remains unchanged for thousands of years. Just maintain a pure heart. Master is very calm about this. It's normal for a dead person to compete on the main road, but there's no such thing as immortality in cultivation. This is equivalent to 100 people fighting on the arena. In the eyes of a normal cultivator, there is a great road struggle, where they confront and unite with each other, carefully watching each other, colluding and backstabbing each other, constantly calculating and scheming, with deep scheming. In the eyes of the disciples of the Crossing World Sword Studio, the Great Way battle refers to killing the remaining 99 by oneself, with a pure and innocent mind. Cheng Hongtan once warned Lu Xian that in the path of practice, one must not cultivate strength without cultivating the heart. Our disciples of the sect must have a pure killing heart. Lu Xian felt that this sentence was very reasonable, but he also felt that there was something wrong with it. During the Mahayana period of the Sword Studio, the holy maidens will only go down the mountain to experience tribulations, but this does not mean that they will all stay in the sect before that. The Cangyuan Realm is a vast realm, shaped like a chicken, surrounded by chaos. At the edge of the eggshell, there are many small bubbles attached to it, which is a small world connected to the Cangyuan Realm. As a top-level immortal sect, the Crossing World Sword Studio naturally possesses a vast amount of small worlds, enough for its own disciples to experience and cultivate. In addition, if there is a special secret realm in the Cangyuan Realm, each immortal sect will also send their own Tianjiao into it, not for the sake of chance, only for one point of superiority and inferiority. This involves some disputes over chi luck, with mystical factors involved. If it weren't for this, Cheng Hongtan wouldn't have been able to gather the wheel of slaughter. But this anomaly looks strange on Cheng Lingzhu. How old is she? Even if we start killing from the mother's womb, we won't be able to kill enough. And from Cheng Lingzhu's personality, Lu Xian didn't think she was a qualified disciple of the Crossing the World Sword Studio. Upon hearing Lu Xian's question, Cheng Lingzhu was clearly stunned for a moment. Bloodshed wheel. It's natural. Lu Xian. What? Did you slaughter the ancient immortal dynasty in your previous life? I have only heard that merit and virtue are innate, how can such karmic karma be inherited? It can be seen that there are still many exceptions in the world. Lu Xian thought of his 3,000 wandering Yuan Ying and suddenly understood. The blood wheel of killing is innate, and the previous blood sea vision was inherent in this sword. Cheng Lingzhu picked up the phoenix blood sword beside him. I am the one who has been recognized by this sword. Throughout the sect, only I can unleash its power. Although the sword spirit was silent, Cheng Lingzhu also felt strange about the consciousness of recognizing the master. Carrying a bloodthirsty wheel and being recognized as the master by the phoenix blood sword, her master clearly told her that she was born with the path of killing and destruction. But Cheng Lingzhu doesn't really want to eat this bowl of rice. She doesn't like killing people, nor is she as brave as her sisters. She always counsels. Especially after experiencing the Death City incident, she almost lost her virginity from the beginning, and the holy maiden who crossed the World Sword Studio was a bit lacking in confidence. Lu Xiangang wanted to ask about the former owner of the Phoenix Blood Sword, but Cheng Lingzhu looked down at the flying magic weapon and let out a soft sigh. He lowered his head and saw a large city below the clouds. Amidst the hustle and bustle of people, amidst the vastness of the world, there is a hidden Buddha's radiance. End of this chapter.